Did you know that there is a civilization that has been evolving for over 3,000 years, but whose secrets are still being discovered to this day? From the rise of the first pharaohs to the conquest of Alexander the Great, Egypt's history is a tale of power, innovation, and mystery. Witness the birth of a civilization where kings were gods, and the pyramids stood as testaments to their glory. Explore an era of Renaissance, where Egypt's art and architecture reached new heights of sophistication. But with greatness came challenges, conquests, invasions, and a final stand against foreign powers. Join us as we journey through the ages of ancient Egypt, from its mysterious beginnings to its ultimate fall. Pre-dynastic Period, around 5000 to 3100 BCE. In the history of ancient Egypt, there was a very primitive period called the Pre-dynastic Period. This period lasted about 2,000 years and was the first step in the development of Egyptian civilization. However, we know very little about this period because not many records or artifacts were found. During the Neolithic period, the community in Northeast Africa transitioned from hunting to agriculture. This transition led to the first advancements in art, craftsmanship, technology, politics, and religion in Egypt, including the reverence for the dead and the belief in the afterlife. Around 3400 BCE, two separate kingdoms emerged in the fertile Nile Delta region, which had some of the oldest civilizations in the world. The Red Land, the southern region of Egypt, known as Upper Egypt, consisted of dry desert areas. The White Land, or Lower Egypt, was located in the northern part of Egypt, including the Nile River Delta and the Nile Valley region. The southern ruler, Scorpion, attempted to conquer the northern kingdom around 3200 BCE. A century later, King Menes of the south successfully conquered the north and unified the country, becoming the first king of the first dynasty. Old Kingdom Period, around 3100 to 2686 BCE. King Menes, the founder of the first dynasty of ancient Egypt, established the capital in an area called Memphis. This city was located in the north, near the source of the Nile Delta. Memphis later became an important political and cultural center of Egypt during the Old Kingdom period. The Old Kingdom period was a time when the foundation of Egyptian society, including the concept of monarchy, was formed. Ancient Egyptians viewed their kings as gods on earth, similar to the god Horus in their beliefs. This was also the period when hieroglyphic writing, one of the earliest forms of writing, began to be used. During this period, as well as in other periods of ancient Egypt, the majority of the population were farmers who lived in small villages and relied on agriculture, mainly cultivating wheat and barley, which formed the economic backbone of the country. The annual floods of the Nile River were crucial as they provided irrigation water and natural fertilizers. Farmers sowed seeds after the flood receded and harvested before the onset of hot weather and drought. Middle Kingdom Period, around 2686 to 2181 BCE. The Middle Kingdom period of Egypt began with the Third Dynasty, around 2630 BCE. During this period, King Djoser, a ruler of the Third Dynasty, commissioned Imhotep, an architect, priest, and physician, to design a funerary monument for him. The result was the step pyramid at Saqqara, near Memphis, which was the first large stone structure in the world. Since then, building pyramids has become an iconic symbol of ancient Egyptian culture, with the Great Pyramid at Giza being the pinnacle of artistry. This pyramid was built for Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops in Greek, who reigned from 2589 to 2566 BCE. This pyramid later became recognized as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus estimated that about 100,000 people worked for 20 years to build it. 2 other pyramids at Giza were built for Khufu's successors, Khafre, 2558-2532 BCE, and Menkaure, 2532-2503 BCE. During the Third and Fourth Dynasties, Egypt experienced a period of peace and prosperity, with pharaohs holding absolute power and maintaining a stable, centralized government. There were no external threats, and successful military campaigns in Nubia and Libya contributed to the country's wealth. However, in the 5th and 6th dynasties, the wealth of the kings began to decline, mostly due to the cost of building pyramids. The absolute power of the pharaohs also began to wane in the face of the increasing influence of the nobility and the priesthood of the sun god Ra. After the death of King Pipi II of the 6th dynasty, who reigned for about 94 years, the Old Kingdom period ended in a state of turmoil. First Intermediate Period, approximately 2181 to 2055 BC. After the collapse of the Old Kingdom of Egypt, during the 7th and 8th dynasties, a series of rapid successions occurred, all of which placed the capital in Memphis. This situation lasted until around 2160 BC, when the central government completely collapsed, leading to a civil war between the governors of the provinces. The situation worsened due to the invasion of the Bedouins and widespread famine and disease. During this period of conflict, Egypt was divided into two main power regions. A group of 17 rulers from the 9th and 10th dynasties established their capital in Heracleopolis, controlling the Middle Egypt region between Memphis and Thebes. Meanwhile, another ruling family emerged in Thebes, challenging the power of Heracleopolis. Finally, around 2055 BC, a Theban prince named Mentuhotep I successfully defeated Heracleopolis, unified Egypt, and began the 11th dynasty, thus ending the first transitional period of ancient Egypt. Middle Kingdom, approximately 2055 to 1786 BC. After Mentuhotep IV, the last king of the 11th dynasty, was assassinated, his vizier took power and became King Amenemhat III, the founder of the 12th dynasty. A new capital was built at Ichitawi, south of Memphis, but Thebes remained the main religious center. During the Middle Kingdom period, Egypt flourished like during the Old Kingdom. The kings of the 12th dynasty ensured stable succession for their lineage by appointing a co-regent as the main successor, a tradition that began with Amenemhat III. During this period, Egypt rose to power in foreign policy. They conquered Nubia to control the gold mines and other resources, while pushing back the invasion of the Bedouins, who had invaded Egypt during the First Intermediate Period. The Middle Kingdom also established diplomatic and trade relations with Syria, Palestine, and other countries. They also carried out large construction projects, built many fortresses and mines, and continued the tradition of pyramid construction from the Old Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom reached its peak under Amenemhat III from 1842 to 1797 BC. However, the decline began during the reign of Amenemhat IV from 1798 to 1790 BC, and continued under his sister and co-regent, Queen Sobekneferu, from 1789 to 1786 BC. She was the first known queen of Egypt, and also the last ruler of the 12th dynasty. Second Intermediate Period, approximately 1786 to 1567 BC. The 13th dynasty of Egypt went through another period of instability in the country's history. During this period, the rapid changes of kings made it impossible for them to consolidate their power. As a result, during the Second Intermediate Period, Egypt became a divided country, influenced by various regions. During this period, the royal court and the official government moved to Thebes. At the same time, a rival dynasty known as the 14th dynasty, in the city of Zois in the Nile Delta, coexisted with the 13th dynasty. Around 1650 BC, a foreign ruling group, the Hyksos, took advantage of the instability in Egypt to seize power. The Hyksos kings of the 15th dynasty adopted and continued many Egyptian traditions in government and culture. They ruled alongside the native Theban dynasty, belonging to the 17th dynasty. These lineages still controlled most of southern Egypt, although they had to pay taxes to the Hyksos. Eventually, a conflict erupted between these two groups. The Thebans launched a war against the Hyksos around 1570 BC and eventually drove them out of Egypt. New Kingdom, approximately 1567 to 1085 BC. Under the reign of Djoser I, the first king of the 18th dynasty, Egypt was reunited after a period of instability. During this dynasty, Egypt re-established control over Nubia and expanded its military influence in Palestine, while also clashing with other powers in the region, such as the Mitanni and the Hittites. However, during these years of conflict, Egypt built the first great empire in the world, stretching from Nubia to the Euphrates River in Asia. The 18th dynasty was notable for powerful pharaohs such as Amenhotep IV, reigned from 1546 to 1526 BCE, Thutmose IV, reigned from 1525 to 1512 BCE, and Amenhotep III, reigned from 1386 to 1349 BCE. Particularly, the New Kingdom also recognized the important role of female rulers, such as Queen Hatshepsut, reigned from 1479 to 1458 BCE. Initially, she acted as regent with Thutmose III, her stepson, who later became one of Egypt's greatest military heroes. However, Hatshepsut rose to power as a pharaoh, becoming one of the most notable female rulers in Egyptian history. At the end of the 18th dynasty, the controversial king was Amenhotep IV, approximately 1353 to 1336 BCE, who implemented a unique religious revolution. He abolished the priesthood of the god Amun-Ra, a combination of the gods Amun and the sun god Ra, and required the people to worship a different sun god, Aten. He changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning servant of Aten, and built a new capital in central Egypt called Akhetaten, later known as Amarna. However, after Akhenaten's death, the capital was moved back to Thebes, and the Egyptians returned to worshipping multiple gods. The 19th and 20th dynasties are known as the Ramesside period. This period is characterized by the restoration of the Egyptian empire. Kings like Ramses II, reigned from 1279 to 1213 BCE, built impressive structures, including temples and large cities. According to the Bible, the exodus of Moses and the Israelites from Egypt is believed to have occurred during the reign of Ramses II. During the New Kingdom, most kings, except for Akhenaten, were buried in rock-cut tombs in the Valley of the Kings, a burial site on the west bank of the Nile opposite Thebes. Although most of these tombs were looted, the tomb of Tutankhamun, approximately 1332 to 1323 BCE, remained intact when it was discovered in 1922. The tomb of Ramses III, approximately 1187 to 1156 BCE, the last great king of the 20th dynasty, was also well preserved, showcasing the wealth of Egypt during his reign. However, the kings after Ramses III lost their power, and Egypt permanently lost its provinces in Palestine and Syria. The country faced invasions from foreign powers, especially the Libyans, while its resources were depleting. The Third Intermediate Period, approximately 1085 to 664 BCE. During the next 400 years, known as the Third Intermediate Period, Egypt underwent significant changes in politics, society, and culture. During this period, the centralized power of the pharaohs weakened, and authority shifted to local officials. At the same time, foreign populations from Libya and Nubia also began to assert their own power and had a significant influence on Egyptian society. The 22nd dynasty began around 945 BCE with the ascension of King Shishonk, a descendant of the Libyans who invaded Egypt at the end of the 20th dynasty and settled there. During this period, local officials gradually operated independently, and information about the 23rd and 24th dynasties was not well documented. In the 8th century BCE, Nubian pharaohs started to appear. Piye, a ruler of the kingdom of Kush in Nubia, established his own 25th dynasty in Thebes. Under the Kushite rule, Egypt clashed with the expanding Assyrian Empire. Esarhaddon, an Assyrian ruler, defeated King Taharka to capture Memphis and destroy the city. He then appointed loyal officials and governors to rule the region on behalf of Assyria. One of these officials is considered the first king of the 26th dynasty, before being killed by a leader from Kesai in a struggle for ultimate power. The Late Period and the Wars of Alexander the Great, approximately 664 to 332 BCE. This period began with Psamtik-Refer, the son of Nichuo, who ruled a unified Egypt for about 2 centuries. However, in 525 BCE, Cambyses, the king of the Achaemenid Empire, defeated Psamtik III, the last king, in the Battle of Pelusium. As a result, Egypt became a province of the Achaemenid Empire. During this time, Persian rulers like Darius, 522 to 485 BCE, governed Egypt similarly to native Egyptian kings. Darius supported religious beliefs similar to those of Egypt and continued the construction and restoration of temples. However, under Cambyses' rule, 486 to 465 BCE, his harsh governance caused dissatisfaction and led to prolonged internal uprisings during the reigns of his successors. Finally, this uprising succeeded in 540 BC, marking the beginning of Egypt's final period of independence under native rulers. This was the period of dynasties 28 to 30, during which Egypt was ruled by the pharaohs. In the mid-4th century BC, the Persian Empire reoccupied Egypt under Artaxerxes III in 343 BC. However, just a decade later, in 332 BC, Alexander the Great from Macedonia defeated the Persians and conquered Egypt. Upon Alexander's death, Egypt fell into the hands of Ptolemy, one of Alexander's generals, and later his descendants. During the Ptolemaic era, Cleopatra VII became the last ruler, but she was defeated by Octavian, who later became Emperor Augustus in 31 BC. Egypt then became part of the Roman Empire, and Christianity became the official religion. 6 centuries later, under Roman rule, the Arabs conquered Egypt in the 7th century and brought Islam, leading to the gradual disappearance of ancient Egyptian culture and paving the way for a new era, guiding Egypt towards a modern rebirth.